What do we do if people from other churches in the community come to our groups? And I know you were a pastor at a larger church that had a lot of groups, and so I imagine you guys experience this quite often. Is this good? Is this bad? And what do we do if they start attending our church?
Well, I would first say you got to realize we're all on the same team. So if you have that maturity in your mind, I would rather have somebody attend another church if they have a group that's going to help them heal in some area and get involved in that fellowship and help that fellowship. So I think just maturity as a pastor is just kind of holding holding your sheep loosely, in the sense of, to love is to have their best interest. And so if the ministry I have on finances or grief helps them, but another church has a ministry, Pure Desire, and that can help them, hey, whatever helps your family grow and that ministry, I think there's some maturity there. That's kind of that's the disposition we took. There was other churches in our community that had other ministries. We would highly recommend our attenders to go there and be plugged in. And if they felt the need to transition, whatever you think is best, migration is always a part of our spiritual journey. If not, I would have been at the first church I ever attended in Salinas, California, right?
Yeah.
It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you're trying to hurry up and switch churches, but it's okay to go to a group at one church and still attend your church where you're going.
Yeah.
Just see it as you're getting resources from the body of Christ and they're helping you.
Yeah. I would just say, if people from other churches are coming to your groups, that it's not this like active recruiting where you're trying to steal people from another church. Like, I don't think that that's good. I think that ends up being more about pride, being territorial and all of that. But if someone wants to come to your church, I mean, you don't need to turn them away. Like, oh, sorry, like our doors are closed to you. Because I know that a lot of people, especially who've been in Pure Desire groups or been through our counseling program or any recovery or healing, tend to want to go to churches that talk about it. Like, it's just something where it's like, I don't really hear any of this from the pulpit. We never talk about sexuality. There's not a trusted level of authenticity that's coming from the stage or from leadership. So I'm going to find somewhere else. I am in support of that, similar to what you're saying, Rodney, that if someone wants to find a place that's more authentic, more real, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to talk about sexuality, other difficult issues to address in the church, then go for it. But I also think that some people can use anything really as an excuse to just bail if they're not getting their own way. And so if you're the person, I'll just say this, if you're the person who is thinking about leaving a church, are you leaving the church to pursue this great community that you think is going to be good for you and your family? Or are you just irritated at the pace at which groups are starting or not starting at your church and you're just trying to bail out? I think there's a little bit of a discernment process that needs to take place there.
Yeah, I agree. I would always try to be real upfront with people. As a group leader, I would say, to others, you don't have to attend our church to attend our groups, but I want you to know that my hope, my goal is that you will go back to your church as an ambassador and start a group there, that is what I am working for and how I think you could best serve your own church. And I think if you have that conversation up front, it helps. And when I would talk to other pastors in the community, I would talk about our groups and say, hey, if someone comes to you and says, I'm really struggling in this area, you are more than welcome to refer them to our groups. And I would say that to the pastors. I'd say, it is not my goal to get them to our church. It's my goal to help them get healthy and send them back to be even more plugged into what you're doing. And so, in that regard, the other thing I would mention is, groups are confidential. So if your church knows that you're attending groups somewhere else, hopefully it's only because you chose to tell them. Because the group you're attending is confidential. I would never go to another pastor or leader and say, hey, so-and-so from your church is in my group. What's up with them? That would be a huge break in confidentiality. And so just a reminder to you, if you're a group leader, a group member, if someone from another church is attending your group, mum's the word. That's right. Not why another church should know that someone's in your group. And so if the person coming from that church has chosen to reveal it to their pastor, or maybe their pastor has referred to them, great. But otherwise, that's the real freedom that a Pure Desire group has, is you could be from another church and no one needs to know that you're finding help and healing somewhere across town because you're having a very confidential experience. Right. And that is what I think honestly enables a lot of people to have the courage to take that step because they're like, hey, I can go somewhere and get help and I don't have to immediately tell the whole world what I'm doing and why.
And heaven forbid you're like in a Baptist church and you go to a Presbyterian church that's running Pure Desire groups or something. Like, it's okay to cross those lines too, for sure.
Well, I think too, Nick, you to me hit on a good point. I've had people that they don't want to be seen in our church's recovery ministry because they don't want anyone to know they've struggled with this. So I've actually gone with other people to like SA groups because they won't come to ours. And I said, hey, I just want to get you in a group. If you don't want to come to this one, let's go somewhere and find help for you, you know?
And it's part of the reason I would never advertise what night groups were on. I didn't want people to have any of that fear. Now, we would advertise heavily that we had groups.
Yeah, sure.
But when and where they met, unless you had been in one, you had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that really did help people feel like, okay, I can show up and people don't know, oh, it's that night and there's his car. What's he doing here?
Right.
That's a real danger.